Hey, what's good, my brothers? This is Enemy Stand User here. I hope y'all are doing well. This week we are back with JJK, and wow, Gege will never cease to amaze me with the way he writes and how cool and driven and all out crazy he makes situations and characters in the manga. This week we dive into the Koen Games with chapter 181, this time in Tokyo Colony number 2, and you know what that means. It's time to rev up our fever, and Gege gives us a lot of new stuff this chapter, but let's just dive into my review. Alright, so starting things off this week, we get some awesome color pages, with the first one we see relating to the chapter being the new character named Charles Bernard, trying to start off his manga career and having a sort of interview at Shueisha Shonen Jump to submit his own manga, with the side note reading, "Again today, there's someone who wants to create a world known as manga." So right off the bat, Gege is throwing some really odd stuff at us and kind of mixing in some reality into the series. It's really fun, but this new guy kind of reminds me of Kishibe Rohan from JoJo in all types of ways, but we'll come back to him later. Next, we see a awesome color celebration page showing Ryu, Ichiguri, and Uro Takako in some really awesome drippy modern outfits. It's very cool, and it's awesome to see them like this. And finally, they put some clothes on this girl Uro. It lets you appreciate her rather large earrings. But I like when we get to see color stuff like this, but it makes me personally appreciate the beauty and style in Gege's art design, and almost in some like new light, it seems like. And I see a lot of people, they like to diss Akutami's art style and say that he can't draw and things like that. And all I gotta say is, artistically, those type of people are blind. Akutami is amazing. Back to the main chapter though, we wrap things up in the Sendai colony as Yuta talks to Uro and Ryu. Specifically with Uro, she is talking down to Yuta, saying he'll reach his limit eventually. She's seen it before. Sorcerers, cursed spirits, it doesn't matter. The only ones who are able to transcend beyond being merely strong are the ones with an overwhelming sense of self and complete disregard for others. Natural calamities. And we see a certain power that she is talking about, and is none other than the king of curses, Sukuna. So at some point she may have felt his power at one point and realized that sort of ceiling of power and how different it is for sorcerers and for sorcery. And her words are extremely reminiscent to when Jogo was defeated and Sukuna said, "You lack the hunger to take hold of your desires, and you should have burnt everything you desire to cinder without thinking." So this viewpoint is very interesting because it looks like to sit at the top of sorcery, you have to kind of let go, to throw away your feelings and stop worrying about others and just become selfish, because it's either you or them at the top. And I really like this viewpoint of strength, and it really puts things into perspective. So we'll have to see what type of person Yuta will become, or what heights Yuta will reach, because at the moment he's a pretty caring guy, and he didn't even kill either Uro or Ryu. Both of them kind of called Yuta naive for that, but I really like that Yuta and Ryu's relationship and how that is, and how they're just sitting down talking about the aftermath of the battle and how they talk through stuff from the fight. And they mentioned Uro, how Yuta could try to recognize her, and it's like they're in sort of like a lover's quarrel, because all she wants is to be seen and recognized, because she never got that before from the Fujiwaras. And it's just like Ryu's like, pay more attention to her. But Yuta's got some stuff to sort out because of Uro's resentment towards Yuta's power, his clan. There's not really too much that they could do to allow an understanding to happen between them, because Yuta is just built different. Unlike her, he's blessed with all this power and things like that. Sugawara, Fujiwara, who knows what's going on there. But however, moving on from that, Yuta gets to business and asks for his points now that Rule 10 was added. Ryu questions if that was why they got to live, but Yuta isn't different about it, saying, "You should thank my friends for that." So now Yuta has 200 points from Ryu and Uro's sharing. So this is an awesome ending to the Sendai section, and I love these characters. I love that they're both still alive. There's some serious potential for them in the long run. And I also like that Yuta is just completely speed running right now That is, it's super early in the games, and he can already add like 2 new rules. So right before going to the next part of the chapter though, we get a small glimpse at Miwa walking through the rubble. And I think this is kind of reused aftermath from his cursed energy shot, but she may be in the Sendai colony, so that'll be interesting. Miwa in the Coin games definitely wouldn't be my first pick, as her ability as a sorcerer is kind of dog water compared to others, but she is looking pretty menacing here. And after the Shibuya mess, if anyone deserves a power up, it's definitely Miwa. This also makes me wonder if the kind of Kyoto group, the Kyoto school, was deployed in the games. And y'all brothers should know there's only one other person I want to see from that school, and that's our brother Todo. So please, Gege, make that happen in some capacity, some way, make that happen. On to the next section of the chapter, we are brought to the actual Shueisha publishing company in Tokyo, where our guy Charles Bernard is trying his hand to start being a mangaka, and it's revealed that he is a foreigner and seems to be French. Based on his attitude, Charles is like incredibly invested and confident in his ability to make manga comics, almost to like a spiritual level, if you get me. However, in reality, his actual works in the comics are kind of funky and confusing to read. And the interviewer, I think the interviewer's name was Ikegawa, I could be wrong about that, but he was not impressed at all by his manga and called it pretty common, and pissing off Charles a little bit. But Ikegawa then goes on to criticize it more, calling the story weak and confusing, even regarding the actual drawings and sketches as inadequate and unrealistic. But as Ikegawa was saying that, Charles snaps his index finger and bends it in the way that the manga shows. And so now we know that our boy Charles is a bit of an eccentric as a calling game player and is a crazy guy, as he mocks the interviewer about realism and storms out of the office bad-mouthing Shueisha. What's interesting about Charles is his desire to understand mangaka and the fundamentals of a good manga. Even in this short amount of time, you can really tell the character Gege put in him and the determination and passion that keeps him going. He even mentions the fever. In the next cut, we see our 2 guys, Charles and Hakari, randomly in a Ferris wheel, talking about the answer to their fever. Hakari thinks he's down on his luck and is stuck in this situation with a guy in a Ferris wheel, not a girl. Charles wants to watch the scene of the coin games and the chaos from afar to see how stuff plays out. He knows that ever since curses and monsters showed up in Tokyo, all the mangaka and editors have stopped. He respected and loved them and loved their works, but now he may feel differently. Charles asks Hakari to give him a reason to fight in the coin games. Reasons to fight are so negative now, he thinks, in the coin games, but he wants that difference in battle manga now that they're positive in manga. So clearly Charles he's a bit unstable, he's a bit unrealistic, and wants Hakari to give him that drive and determination to hate Hakari so much that he wants to kill him. And with that, Hakari gives him what he wants. Hakari tells him, "I wouldn't read your manga even if you begged me to. I don't want to catch your gloomy funk. Stop whining and go all out, you disgusting otaku." In that moment, you can see Charles collects himself and is now crying and ticked off at Hakari and says, "Why'd you have to say something so awful?" So, wow, it's Hakari time, and we definitely get to see him versus basically Kishibe Rohan. It's gonna be really incredible to see Hakari in action, and it's no coincidence to see his POV right after Yuta. So Hakari is definitely going to be really strong, and I really, like a lot of people, I'm expecting some like fever, Todo brother type action from Hakari, at least in like the sort of fight vibe department, because both of him and Charles are clearly unhinged as characters. They're kind of crazy, and the battle should go really wild depending on their powers. This whole colony could be just as wild as Sendai now that Hakari's in the mix, especially if Hajime is still here in Tokyo Colony number 2. and I know a lot of us are looking forward to that fight as well. But now with Charles Bernard, like what type of name is that in the first place? Charles Bernard. It's like they tried to pick the lamest, most generic name ever. But with Charles, like I said, with him being related to something like Rohan from JoJo's, I say that because they both were like mangaka artists, and they both were kind of crazy out of their mind with their works, and they're just out of their minds in general with their powers. So if Charles has some ability or curse technique to manifest having to do with manga, there's definitely got to be some type of JoJo reference in there somewhere. But him and Hakari are going to pop off. Hopefully we get to see some extremely interesting or high level sorcerer battles, but at this point that's kind of to be expected with how Gege writes. But this should be very interesting to see Hakari. There's a lot of potential here, and Charles is really interesting as well. I love how Gege could just make characters' relationships flow so smooth, even without having to elaborate all that much, and just uses real world stuff. We just immediately pick up the vibe. Truly, Gege truly is a good mangaka right here. Including with the Sendai colony too, that was awesome. We got really cool looks at full Sukuna and his presence in the story, and how it just impacts the ceiling of power even today. I really like that Uro and Ryu, they're still alive. Ryu is super great as a character. He's really hype. It was just awesome to see him just basically just talking to Yuta like a regular person. They're just having a good old chat. And Uro as well, she has a lot of complexity going on with her character, her past, her relationships, Fujiwara's, everything. It's very awesome. And with they just have, all of them have really good looks as characters, and it's gonna be super cool to see what they can do in the future now that they're all still alive. Will they keep killing? Will they align in some way? But I don't know. Regarding Yuta, I really want to see how he emerges from this arc. If he'll decide to make his own path, or fulfill his desire and become the strongest, like what was being said in this chapter. A lot of folks think that Yuta will die toward the end of the story, but we're just gonna have to see about that. Gege is really good. He's a really good writer, and he always gives characters, no matter how small, no matter how big, some type of impact. So we'll just have to see how things play out. That's about it for this chapter. All around super hype. Charles seems like a very interesting guy, and I'm sure Gege will kind of project a lot of stresses about being a mangaka through him and through his character and things like that. Also, I love that Charles left Shueisha, actual Shueisha, bad-mouthing them, because I kind of feel like that too when a copyright claim comes up. In fact, Akutami, please form a binding vow with everyone in the company to stop harassing me and my fellow content creators with copyright claims and strikes. We're just trying to have fun. But seriously, I love this chapter. There's a lot of things I like about it, and there's definitely a lot to think about it as well. And next week should be another banger, stepping into Hakari's shoes, so hopefully we're ready for that. Anyways, hopefully you guys like the video and sub if you're new. Remember to comment what you think and your thoughts. But this has been Enemy Stand User, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.